Hi, and welcome to Known Through Connection, a podcast where we value presence over performance. It's not that performance isn't important, it's how you build credibility, it's how you turn caring into action. But presence is where you build connection. I'm your host, Jess. I'm excited to welcome you to this episode 6. This episode is in between guests. I have my guest lined up for the next episode, and I'm excited to have him on just based on the character of who he is and the connections he has. I'm excited to dig into his story. But as we wait for the next episode with the guest, I want to offer this episode to give you a few pieces of advice on how to build connections yourself. These will be primers, kind of more basic table stakes for how to build connections when you're meeting with somebody in person. And so I hope that these are helpful, and I want to offer 5 tips for being able to improve your connections. So let's say you're going to meet somebody in person, whether it's a coffee or a lunch or just a casual get together, and you're meeting with them and you walk in, you want to be able to greet them warmly, whether you're the person arriving second or whether you're the person first. You want to greet them warmly. And if you kind of know them or sort of know them, give them a handshake. Give them a nice, firm handshake and make it impactful. Connect your palms together as much as you can and give a nice firm shake. I will tell you that I struggle sometimes with connecting on that handshake. I will sometimes miss and get kind of a half handshake. And if you've ever done that where you're kind of half gripping, that doesn't feel good. And so I have chosen to take a hit on my first connection where I will watch, where I will look for where their hand is, and I will then know where to place my hand to shake their hand. Makes it just slightly awkward because I break eye contact with them. But in my point of view, that's better than missing them on the handshake and having a very awkward handshake. I feel like my internal directional compass is broken. I struggle sometimes with finding my way across town when I'm driving, and that's why I rely on GPS. And somehow that plays into how I shake hands. My hand doesn't quite know where to go. And so I will just break eye contact just enough to be able to shake hands and make sure that I'm connecting. I will tell you, it is impactful when somebody is really good at their handshake. There's somebody here in Omaha who I've met with in person, Bridget Knob. She is masterful at the handshake. It is clear when I shook hands with her, she has practiced that. That is a skill she has developed, and it still lasts with me months later, just knowing the kind of handshake she could give. And it feels so professional and warm and confident, and it just adds to the connection. Another thing that you want to do when you're meeting with that person, you're greeting them, is say something warm to them. One of the tips that I've gotten over time is tell somebody, hey, it's good to see you. Now, you want to be honest. Hopefully it is. Hopefully it's a meeting where you're meeting with somebody that you really do like and it is good to see them. But if it is, tell them. Tell them, hey, it's good to see you. And that'll make them feel valued right from the start, seen, appreciated. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know I've given this tip before on my personal account. Tell somebody it's good to see you. It will make them feel seen and valued. It'll set the tone very positive, and more than likely, they'll reciprocate it back and they will tell you, hey, it's good to see you too. And that just sets the stage. Once you get connected and you're sitting together or having your drinks or whatever you're having, keep this in mind. There was a tip that I gotten years ago from a previous employer, the founder of the company that I worked for, and I know he got it from people who were masterful in their own way, but he shared it with me, the phrase, be interested, not interesting. Be interested, not interesting. The difference is if you're there just to talk about yourself, somebody's not going to connect with you. They're going to feel like you're taking all the airspace. And so you want to make sure that you're engaging with the person, asking them how they're doing, what's going on with them, going a couple levels deep, asking questions to understand what they're talking about and what they're sharing with you. So be interested, not interesting. Now, that doesn't mean a relationship isn't two-way. You absolutely want relationships where you can give as well as take in terms of relationship wise. You want to be able to have a moment where you can share and that they're interested in you and vice versa. But for your own mindset to take responsibility for yourself, think about being interested in that person, not necessarily taking all the spotlight and limelight and trying to be interesting. Make it more about them and let them open the space for you to reciprocate in that relationship. As you're talking, one other thing to think about. I don't know if you've experienced this where you're meeting with somebody, maybe in a little bit of a busy space, and they're constantly looking at who else is around, what's going on. They're not quite looking at you. They're not quite focusing on you. They're kind of looking, and there's kind of the squirrel syndrome, right? That doesn't feel good if you felt that. If you've been on the receiving end of that, you know that it's like, am I not important enough? What else am I not keeping their attention? So for yourself, as much as possible, focus in on that person as you're dialoguing with them, as they're talking, focus in on paying attention to them, make eye contact with them. Force yourself in a positive, healthy way to focus in and zoom in on that person. Don't worry about everything that else is going on. That person will feel valued to have you focus in on them. It feels very different right now if I'm looking at you and talking to you versus if I'm kind of telling you things and I'm kind of looking around. That doesn't feel the same, does it? That feels different. So make sure you're making eye contact. Stay focused on the person. Maybe there are people around. That's okay. If you're meant to connect with other people, it'll happen afterwards. It's all right. Just stay focused on the person. Be present with who you're with. Another tip that I have, and this one maybe is a little elevated, and I don't want you to overthink it, but it's something I've been aware of the last few months, and it has to do with eye contact. All of us have a dominant eye. We tend to focus from one eye, even though we have two eyes, our focus tends to come from one eye. And when we make eye contact with somebody, we tend to navigate towards that eye. Pay attention to that. Again, this is elevated. It may be overthinking. Don't worry about it if it feels uncomfortable, unnatural, but pay attention to what eye that person is connecting with you when they're looking at you and talking with you. Most people are right eye dominant, and so they have a tendency to look at the other person's right eye. Now, when you encounter somebody who's left eye dominant, or maybe they have a challenge with their eyes, maybe they're I don't mean this facetiously, maybe they're missing an eye, which I've encountered people like that, right? And so you want to focus in on the eye that mirrors the eye that they're tending to look at you at. Now, if you do that and it feels off and they seem off, like you're kind of looking back and forth between eyes, you might be both mirroring each other at the same time and taking the wrong cues. So if you're looking at each other's eyes and you keep going back and forth between the eyes, you probably haven't landed on what the dominant eye is for both of you. Try to find what is the most comfortable eye for the both of you to look at and lock in, going back to that previous tip, as focusing in on that person and making eye contact. Like there's a laser or a magnet. Your eyes are connected. Just focus in on their eye and lock in. Again, this is a little elevated, little detailed in the weeds, might be overthinking it for some of you. I just offer it for what it's worth. The last tip I want to give you this session is when you're leaving the location, again, whether it's a coffee or drinks or going out for lunch, if it's possible, if it makes sense, walk out together. Sometimes I'll meet with people, we are leaving at the same time, but we don't walk out together. And it feels like we've left the relationship, we've left the partnership too early. Now, maybe they got tired of me. Maybe they didn't want to be around me, but I don't think that was the case. I think it's just a social cue that maybe is being missed. And so I offer up, if you're having a great time, you really enjoyed the conversation, you want to keep that connection vibrant all the way through the leaving and going about your separate ways, walk out together. You're keeping that partnership and that camaraderie as you leave wherever you are. You're doing it together and say your goodbyes outside, again, as it makes sense, weather permitting, schedules permitting, all those type of things. But keep that connection present even as you're departing, in that you're leaving together, not all of a sudden separately from the table. Well, thank you for listening to this podcast episode. I hope it was helpful. If this type of information is helpful for you, will you please leave a comment so that I know? This is a little bit different from the previous episodes that I've done. It's a little more instructional, a little more educational, trying to bring just tidbits of my years of trying to build up how to connect with people into a few ways that you might be able to apply for yourself. If this is helpful and over time you'd like to have more episodes like this worked in between the guests, I would love to know. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for listening. And I look forward to our next episode where we resume with bringing in guests and talking with them and helping them be connected through presence. Go out, have a great week, and help others be known through connection.